Hello and welcome to the March Ohio ISP Gathering, supporting SSAs and QIDPs. Thanks for listening. I'm James Bennett, Regional Support Facilitator with DODD. Joining me for this recorded gathering is Leslie Powell, also a Regional Support Facilitator with DODD. We also have a special guest speaker with us, Anna Jeffries from the Licking County Board of DD. We want to start by thanking you all for the work you do to support people with disabilities. The past 2 years have been extremely challenging, and we have seen and heard so many examples of the great work being done across the state. Your time and efforts are much appreciated. As in recent months, our March gathering will take place in this recorded video format. Regional office hours will be conducted later in the month. The dates and links to office hours for your particular region can be found on the Ohio ISP webpage at dodd.ohio.gov/OhioISP under Ohio ISP support. In February, we discussed the Healthy Living section of the Ohio ISP assessment. Trending topics of medication administration and technology also were reviewed. If you missed the February gathering or any previous gatherings, you can find recorded summaries and full gatherings on the Ohio ISP webpage under Resources and Documents. Also, there is a demo of the IT system available on the welcome page of the Ohio ISP website. We will start by reviewing the objectives for this March gathering. To increase familiarity and comfort with the Ohio ISP planning process. To problem solve challenges related to specific Ohio ISP planning questions or lines of questioning. To learn tips and tricks on how to write plans that people want to read. And to continue to build confidence, competence, and connections. While these objectives are similar to those from previous gatherings, remember that we are now crossing the bridge from assessment into planning. When moving from assessment to planning, we have often referred to crossing a bridge. The information gathered in assessment is used to drive the planning process. Therefore, it is essential that the assessment and planning sections align. In past gatherings, we reviewed assessment sections using the sample plan for Rose Crawfish, who received waiver services. As we move to planning, we are going to look at an ICF sample plan for Lewis or Lou Decker. DODD is committed to developing and sharing resources that will apply to both SSAs and QIDPs, and we believe that both parties can learn from examples in waiver settings and ICFs. Lou's Ohio ISP was created in the online system. While the IT system was going through internal and external testing at the time, and continues to do so at this time, using the system to develop Lou's Ohio ISP had the added benefit of assisting with the testing process. You can review the full plans for both Rose and Lou on the Ohio ISP website at dodd.ohio.gov/OhioISP. Lou's Ohio ISP, as well as another for a person who receives ICF services, were added recently. Guidance related to both assessment and planning also is available on the Ohio ISP website. The important 2s and 4s are carried over from the summaries of each assessment section. These will populate into the ISP in the IT system. If using the paper version, these should be copied and pasted into the ISP. Here you will see what is important to and for Lou in the areas of communication and advocacy and engagement, as identified in assessment. On this slide, we have a continuation of the important 2s and 4s from Lou's plan. Some themes, such as his love for Elvis's music, can be seen in multiple assessment areas. You will note that the community living and healthy living assessment sections are absent here. Unfortunately, these sections did not populate in this printed version of Lou's plan. Please remember that when this Ohio ISP was created for Lou in the IT system, Updates were still being made, and testing was still in progress. We are happy to share that this issue is now resolved in the online system. Continuing on with the assessment summary, as with the important 2s and 4s, skills and abilities also carry over from the summaries of each assessment section. Again, these will populate in the IT system and should be copied and pasted in the paper version. On this slide, you will see Lou's many skills and abilities in the different assessment areas. Please note that if no skills or abilities are identified in a particular area of assessment, such as healthy living for Lou, it will not show in the ISP. The final part of the assessment summary in the ISP is the known and likely risk section. As stated in previous gatherings, the first column, what is the risk, what it looks like, where it occurs, carries over from the summaries of each assessment section. The remaining columns build off the identified risk and must be entered by the SSA or QIDP. What the support must look like and why the person needs this support should describe the supervision level based on that specific risk. A supervision level must be assigned for each risk according to the listed definitions. While these supervision levels are general in nature and may not specifically identify what is needed for a particular person, these details can and should be addressed in the What Support Must Look Like column. Please note that the IT system does not allow you to select multiple supervision levels for one risk. If there are multiple supervision levels for the same risk, possibly supervision will look different in different settings or with different providers, a new risk can be created in the system to specify the differences. This slide shows 2 additional risks for Lou, each in the area of healthy living. One of the risks relates to his diet orders, which include pureed food and thickened liquids. The team has determined that Lou requires close and constant supervision for this risk. You can read the additional details on what the supports must look like for this risk. The other risk involves Lou's fear and resistance to medical and dental appointments. He engages in self-injury and physical aggression during these situations. A close and constant supervision level was identified by the team, and you will also see the inclusion of a chemical restraint as a support. In the interest of time, we have not included all of Lou's risks in this presentation. Be sure to check out his sample OhioISP for a complete listing. Outcomes are developed based on information from the assessment. Don't forget, assessment drives planning. Remember those checkboxes in the summary at the end of each assessment section? And how one of those boxes gives you the option to identify a potential outcome? In the IT system, checking this box in assessment will prompt you to enter notes you can refer to when you get to this area of planning. While not all the potential outcomes need to be used, this is a valuable resource to help bridge from assessment to planning. The outcome should include what the person wants to accomplish and why. Use of the words "so that" or "in order to" can be beneficial when getting at the why. During monitoring, you may find that someone no longer wants to work on an outcome or that it is no longer important to them. This is okay. Just like any of us, people's goals and priorities may change over time and through experiences. How many of you have had a New Year's resolution to start working out more, only to find that a month later things had changed? Or maybe someone was interested in learning how to cook, only to find that once you started, it wasn't quite as exciting as it seemed on those cooking shows. People can change their minds, and it should be reflected in the outcomes accordingly. This section also includes a summary of the progress and details to know. The summary of progress is particularly important in the evaluation of ongoing outcomes. If no progress is being made, the person and their team should determine how to address potential obstacles, if revisions are necessary, and if the outcome should even continue. If this is a new outcome, this area does not require a response. The details to know refer to the person's history as it relates to the outcome. This section should be gathered from the assessment and should not include any new information. Continuing in the area of outcomes and experiences, experiences are the steps that need to occur to achieve the outcome. These were often called action steps in the past. What needs to happen, how it should include supports to be provided and recorded by the provider at the required frequency, which is referenced in the when and how often. We apologize for the who is responsible name listed here on the screen. As noted earlier, Lose OhioISP was developed in the IT system as testing and updates remained ongoing. This process has continued so that we can continue to address issues in the IT solution prior to its rollout. There are additional experiences in Lose Plan that will not be shared here, but can be viewed as part of the full sample. The review section for outcomes and experiences is one place where programs and measurable goals for ICFs can be included in the OhioISP. These may also live in another area. In the other ICF example, for Victoria, programs and goals are listed as part of the frequency for experiences. There can be some flexibility with where things go in the OhioISP. There is no prescribed way. For a few of the listed dates, we mistakenly state 2022 instead of 2023. We apologize for this error. You will notice that the When to Check In column is blank for Lose Plan. This field is currently disabled and will not show in the DoDD IT system. In the future, this option may be re-enabled as a drop-down selection, but we will discuss further if and when that time comes. Finally, as part of outcomes and experiences, there's a spot to report any important and relevant history related to the outcome and experience. There are 3 total outcomes in Lose Plan, but in the interest of time, we are only sharing one here. To see all outcomes and associated experiences, please visit the full sample plan on the OhioISP website. Outcome guidance is available on the OhioISP website as well. The April gathering also will address outcomes in further detail.
Thank you, Jim. So now we're going to move forward to paid service and supports. This section should include the paid service and supports based on the individualized needs identified in the assessment. The scope of the service is what is required of the provider to support the person. In Lou's case, he requires assistance with managing personal funds and maintaining an inventory of personal items, as well as assistance with bathing and other hygiene tasks. We often get asked about the level of detail that should be included in this section. For some, the scope may be longer and contain more detailed information. For others, a more concise, generalized approach may be all that is necessary. Like all other aspects of planning, this area should be individualized and person-centered. Again, there is no prescribed way. How often and how much is identified frequency for which the service and supports must be provided. A documentation sheet of paid service and supports can be generated for providers in the IT system. We're going to continue with paid service and supports. When higher level of supervision are needed for a person, it should be addressed as a service and support in this section. The provider will need to document that this supervision is being followed accordingly. As noted in known and likely risks, Lewis requires close and constant supervision when outside his home, in the community, around food, during meal times, during emergency and safety drills, during hygiene and personal care tasks. His general supervision level while at home is visual. On this slide, you will see more services and support for Lou. Services and supports should address any risks identified in the plan. This includes any restrictive measures such as the use of a chemical restraint for Lou. To see all paid service and supports, please view the full sample plan on the OhioISP website. Additional supports. In this section, we include additional unpaid supports. This can be family, friends, community resources, technology, etc. For Lou, his sister Sherry, his guardian Louis Sr., who is mistakenly referred here as John Smith, and his niece Simone are all identified as additional supports. On this slide, you'll see professional referrals. In this section, we include any new or existing referrals to a professional. This can be medical professionals, technology specialists, therapists, etc. Lou has several existing and new professional referrals that are monitored by the ICF Nursing Director, Jimmy Kells. Participation and informed consent agreement. If a person has restrictive measures included, they should be interwoven throughout the OhioISP. This should not be the first time someone reading the plan learns about a restriction or a place to dump all behavior support information. In this area, there are questions related to restricted measures that serve as a means of informed consent for the person served and/or their guardian. As with other sections of the OhioISP, the responses here should be written in a simple language, free of professional jargon and terminology, for all team members to understand. For plans with multiple restricted measures, the process would be the same. You're just going to repeat for each. This section is the informed consent for the full OhioISP. The person served and/or their guardian must consent to these items before a plan can be finalized. This is a simple checklist. ICFs and county boards must ensure that there are processes in place to inform appropriate parties about matters such as rights, free choice of provider, due process, etc. The consent for Lou is shown here. There's another consent completed by Lou's guardian, Louis Decker Sr., on the sample OhioISP. On this slide, we're looking at signatures. Team members will sign the plan to indicate their consent. The OhioISP cannot be finalized until signatures are received. Signatures can be received electronically through the IT system. In situations where electronic signatures cannot be attained for any reason, the system will allow for a signature to be attained in person or on paper, which we would call a wet signature, and then can be uploaded to the plan. This is the contact information page. This section of the ISP specifies a person's demographic information. There is a spot on this page for important people in the person's life as well. It should be noted that those listed here are not necessarily team members. They can be team members, but they don't have to be. If there are any important clubs, groups, organizations, or important places for a person, those should be listed here. Since Lou recently moved into an ICF and has a lot of fears going out into the community, there are no current items to list here. Hopefully, through the service and supports provided, his team will find ways to enhance his community participation. Next, we're going to go over the introduction page. This is a summary of the most important information about the person. If a new direct support professional just started working with someone, what would they need to know? It includes important to, important for, great things about, need to know to support, and a picture of the person or a favorite item. The intent of this section is not simply to copy over all the existing important tos and fors and skills and abilities from the OhioISP. So don't be afraid to be creative here. Use words and phrases to paint the picture of the person. As we have done in past gathering sessions, we will cover trending topics related to the associated topic areas. The trending topics for this month of planning discussion include the core responsibilities of SSAs and QIDPs and writing plans that people want to read.
Thank you, Leslie. As Leslie mentioned, one of our trending topics this month is the 4 core responsibilities for the SSA and QIDP role. This is a topic we have covered previously. Most of the SSA and QIDP work will revolve around these functions, which are all centered around ongoing conversation. Teams need to communicate and check in with the person served and each other. It's a continuous process, not an annual event. Features of the IT system include ways to enhance communication amongst team members. It starts with assessment. Get to know the person, connect with them and those closest to them. Be curious. Remember that everyone communicates in their own way. This is a discovery phase, not a phase to identify services. Then moving to the planning phase, information from the assessment is used to plan how needs will be met and who will meet them. The plan is written using person-centered language. The plan ensures services are provided in the least restrictive setting using the least restrictive services. The SSAs and QIDPs should ensure the providers written into the plan have reviewed the plan and the staff understand exactly what services and supports they are expected to provide. While writing a great person-centered plan can be challenging, ensuring that plan is implemented can be even more challenging. This is where ongoing monitoring is so important. Check with the team. Have honest conversations about what is working, what is not working, and what could be better. Find creative ways to communicate and share information. People will change their mind or find that something is not working. This is when revisions are needed. The plan should be updated as the person's life changes, not once a year. Feedback and team input are used to revise the plan as needed. When changes occur, we encourage SSAs and QIDPs to go back to the assessment phase. On the next series of slides, you will hear from Anna Jeffries, Public Information Officer from Licking County Board of DD. Anna recently did a presentation at an OACB conference on writing plans that people want to read. Since her presentation was so well received, and we have moved into the planning portion of the OhioISP process for SSAs and QIDPs, we invited Anna to join us to do an excerpt of her presentation. Take it away, Anna.
Hi, my name is Anna Jeffries, and I'm the Public Information Officer at the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And today I'd just like to share with you a little bit of a presentation that I did recently called How to Write ISPs People Want to Read. Now, just kind of a little bit about me. I started out my career as a newspaper journalist. I was at a newspaper here in Licking County for about 8 years. Was doing some reporting even before that at my college paper, and came to the DD system in 2016. But when I got hired as the PIO in Licking County, one of the things that I felt very strongly about was that I wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaving the things that I loved about my journalism career behind. And that meant I didn't want to stop interviewing people and I didn't want to stop telling stories. And I was very fortunate that what I found was that the DD field has so many opportunities to tell good stories. And it wasn't really until very recently that I thought about how many storytelling opportunities there are when you're writing somebody's plan. So that's something I wanted to talk about today. And I will just shout out to my Licking County Board of DD SSAs, Amanda, Rachel, and Hannah. As somebody who doesn't write ISPs for a living, I do a lot of writing about the county board. I do a lot of things, but I don't write ISPs. I really had to rely on some of our rock stars to give me some suggestions and advice, kind of to build a framework to put this presentation around. So shout out to them. This would not be possible without them. But one of the things as I started to prepare for this and learn about ISPs is just how similar they are to a profile of a person. So really what we're trying to do is make sure that we tell a person's story. We reflect what their life looks like when everything is going well. And I think for me, and I know for the folks at my agency that are great at writing plans, one of the things that they're thinking about is, what would you want your ISP to say about you? I think that we always want to think about the fact that no person is ever their best day or their worst day. And I think about it not only from my own perspective, but as the perspective of a parent. What would I want to see about my son or daughter if I picked up their ISP? What would I want their narrative to be? So thinking about that, I think, is a really good way to start. I'm a big proponent of words matter. They, obviously in our field, they matter a lot. The way we talk about people really sets the stage for how they feel about themselves and others. So making sure that we're very careful with our words and not only careful with our words, but also using our words strategically. Obviously, space is limited, time is limited, and one of the concepts that we really embrace in journalism is show, don't tell, which basically means, making sure that you're not telling somebody about something, but you're using words that show. And we'll talk more about that later. But just a reminder that, these ISPs are snapshots in time, just kind of like a good newspaper article. There's always going to be follow-up. There's always going to be addendums. There's always going to be questions. It's going to change, and it should, because we want people's lives to change for the better as they go through each year. So the way I've kind of broken this down is there's kind of the gathering of the information, and there's also the writing part. And gathering the information is just as important as the writing. During that discovery period while you're talking to people, not only listening to what they're saying very actively, but paying attention to their surroundings. So looking around, is their room purple? It's probably their favorite color. Do they have OSU stuff everywhere? Using those things to help paint that picture and tell that person's story, just by paying attention to the things in their life that are clearly important to them. Not only will that save you a question, but I think it also will help you start good conversations. And I think another thing that I always found to be really effective with interviewing people and gathering information is just making sure that it is a flowing conversation. Making sure that you're not asking questions that bring you a yes or no answer, making sure that you keep it open-ended. How do you feel about that? What's an example of that? Giving people ways to motivate them to say more. And just kind of remembering that if you don't get anything in the meeting, following up is a really great way to talk to someone and learn even more about them. One thing that I will share that's always served me very well, this is something I really learned early on in my journalism career, is just wrapping every interaction up with, is there anything else you want to say, or is there anything else I should know? I think this gives people kind of permission to share, and not only share what they think they should be talking about, but maybe just really take ownership and empowerment and share kind of what they want to say about themselves. I think it's definitely a nice way to tell people that you're interested in what they have to say. So then we go into a writing phase, and obviously getting into this phase, thinking about who we want to write this plan for. Obviously the person we support, but also their DSP or a caregiver, somebody that's going to be learning about them. And as I said before, what would you want your ISP to say about you? If you're a parent looking at this, if you're somebody that, we want people to feel pride, we want people to feel dignity, we want to be honest about information that needs to be conveyed. But I think there's ways to do that really acknowledges the person that we support, but also makes life easier for the people reading this plan who are helping that person. We want people to see themselves in their ISP. We want them to feel like it's a valuable document that actually says something about them. And one way to do that is to make sure that we're using their words, that we're writing something that they will understand. We're reflecting that back to them. So whether that means somebody's using pronouns or someone's using identity first language or person first language, we want to make sure that they can recognize themselves in the things that we write. Also, reading level is a huge thing to keep in mind, especially with not only people we support, but the people who are supporting them. And there's actually things you can do to run your ISPs that you write, take copy and paste paragraphs into a readability calculator that will tell you what readability is. I have definitely put things into those calculators and it's come back as a 9th or a 10th grade level, and I think that's a wake-up call to me that I need to really think about simplifying my writing. Using quotes is very much okay and encouraged in plans. We just want to make sure that we are actually quoting somebody, and that's the only time we would ever use the third person, is when they're talking about themselves for real. But if you can jot down quotes accurately, that's a great way to kind of tell somebody's story. A quote that I loved is, there was a young lady in a plan that said, I'm the mom of my group of friends. And I love that quote because she said it and I know exactly what that means. I know who that person is because I'm envisioning somebody who is, very much taking care of her friends, planning things for them to do, knows what everyone else has going on. And I think it says a lot about that person in a really simple way. So using those quotes is definitely a great way to get to know somebody. And obviously you want to be honest about things. You want to be honest about challenges. I don't think it does anybody any good to sugarcoat things that need to be very clear, especially if it's related to safety. But I think, coming at that at a perspective of what a person can do. I think I've talked to some service coordinators, some SSAs who have said, the thing that's really hard is when you open up someone's plan and you see words like they will never or they can never. And I think that just kind of reframing that can really do a lot to change the tone of that plan. So this is the slide where I'm going to talk a lot about just this concept of show, don't tell. But before I do that, just a couple other tips. Want to make sure that we're going for quality over quantity, avoiding redundancy, not copying and pasting information from one paragraph to another. People can always tell when something is copy and pasted. And not overthinking. We are human beings writing plans and human beings are reading the plans. So the biggest priority is just to communicate accurately and authentically, and everything else should work out well. Finding a copy editor is something that I've found very valuable because I admittedly am very bad at editing my own writing. So if you have a caseload buddy or a partner in your office or someone who can look over the things that you write, that can really help. Just catching all those little errors and typos and things that I do all the time. And, making sure that you're including some of the really fun specific details you gathered in the interview. This is where that show don't tell idea comes in. We said before, words matter. And the right word can really paint a picture for someone and eliminate the need for an entire paragraph. These are some examples that have come from plans that I used to get ready for this presentation. And, one of the phrases in the plans that I loved was, just this simple, loving mom to her hamsters. It's just a couple words, but it really tells me so much more about that person than a paragraph about, the caretaking responsibilities and what that says about her skills. I know that she is taking care of those hamsters, not only expertly, but just that they are spoiled rotten. And I just think that says so much about this person and what's important to them and how they prioritize their life. Just using things like brilliant at math instead of, a long list or a drawn out explanation of the things that a person can do. I don't need to know the details to know that this person has an ability that is brilliant and that they're great at math. So I think just those are some examples of how we can use words to paint a picture. We can use words to show. And I think that we want to make sure we're doing that for exciting things, but also challenges. We want to be able to, as opposed to telling somebody where somebody works and the hours that they work and, how they get there, really showing, what does their best day at work look like? Bob comes in at 8 and immediately gives the cashier a high five. That's a story that we can tell using really descriptive words and really showing, when things are going perfectly in Bob's day, what does that look like? And I think we can also use that to talk about challenges that a person might be going through, especially when we talk about safety. Getting really specific and giving a good example can really help somebody understand what's going on. One of the examples in a plan that I loved was they told a story about a person who got kind of disoriented while they were walking out in the country, and they, sincerely believed that someone would find them and take them home, pick them up and take them home. So instead of writing, a paragraph that says, this person has no idea how to navigate, they don't have a regard for their personal safety, they'll get in the car with a stranger, we could tell people all those things, or we could show them an example and really not only get really specific about what a person might need support with, but also just, give a dignified example of something that might be a challenge for them. So I hope this has been helpful. I just want to thank all of you for what you do. You have such an important job writing these plans, getting outcomes from people. It's just such a huge part of our system. And if there's anything I can ever do to help or just nerd out about storytelling, I put my contact information at the beginning and would love to talk to folks. So thank you again and have a great day.
Thank you to Anna for sharing that wonderful presentation. As we move closer to Ohio ISP onboarding in the IT system, here are several ways to continue your preparation. Look at ways to simplify the language used in plans and in the daily lives of individuals we serve. Begin to dig deeper as you work with people to discover those things that are important to them. Evaluate your current processes and systems to ensure they align with the transition to the Ohio ISP. And finally, continue to familiarize yourself with the Ohio ISP paper version so that you are comfortable with the questions and flow once onboarding and implementation begins. As mentioned in recent gatherings, the Ohio ISP paper version was updated in December and is posted on the Ohio ISP website. Please head to dodd.ohio.gov/OhioISP to get the most updated information and resources. Here you will find the most current paper version of the Ohio ISP, various Ohio ISP sample plans. Examples were developed from internal and external stakeholders and represent several different areas and levels of need, as well as different writing styles. ICF examples were added recently. The Ohio ISP IT demo. This video is posted on the welcome page of the Ohio ISP website. It includes a welcome from former Director Davis and a demo of the IT system. Several resources related to 6 essential elements, outcomes, trauma response information, plain language guide, assessment and planning guidance, communication facilitation tips, benefits of the Ohio ISP Online, and an OSAS or Office of System Supports and Standards map, which will connect you with the right DoDD contact in your area. Finally, frequently asked questions. These are updated and continue to expand as we receive questions from the field. Please remember that questions, concerns, and other feedback related to the Ohio ISP can be sent via email to ohioisp@dodd.ohio.gov. Now that you have listened to the recorded gathering for the month, we encourage you to join other SSAs and QIDPs in your region to ask any questions you may have. DoDD office hours for March are as follows. For Superintendent Regions 1 and 2, March 23rd, 2022 from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. For Superintendent Regions 3 and 4, March 31st from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And for Superintendent Regions 5 and 6, March 30th from 10 to 11 a.m. Links to the team's meetings can be found on the Ohio ISP webpage under Ohio ISP Support. Be on the lookout for information regarding the April gatherings, which will include a detailed review of outcomes and experiences. Communications will be sent with additional information. Thank you for attending and for all the work you do. Have a great day, everyone.